just take the bracket, drop the bolt through it, and we'll screw them right into the back of the saw. There's 2 of them. And this is where we'll store our fence when it's not in use. Here's the second one. These are a number 13 wrench. Put them in by hand first. And grab your wrench. And we'll just snug these down. Just pull them straight down. You don't have to crank down tight on these. They're going into a sheet metal fixture there. So that's our bracket. Our fence will hang there when it's not in use. Now the standard fence for the Fusion table saw is a 36-inch fence, and it comes in 2 parts. If you get the optional 52-inch fence, it'll be a single tube and come in a long box, and we'll show that in just a few moments here. We'll notice that the fence has got 2 parts. The short part has got these location pins, and these will actually join into the matching holes in the end of the longer piece. Now first, let's open the hardware bag, and we'll lay out all of our hardware. See that there's a couple of packs inside here. These will be the bolts, and this is the end cap for the fence. We'll set that to the side and open up all of our bolts. And I'll go ahead and preload the washers now on these. Now there'll be a total of 6 of these square-headed bolts, and those are the ones that will mount the front rail. I'm going to put these Allen head bolts by themselves here. Now I've got the fasteners all laid out on the tabletop right here. We've got our square-headed bolts, the washers and the nuts. The washers and the nuts are going to go on the back side. We're going to put the bolt through the front hole with the washer and the nut right on the back side. And we're just going to loosely put these on there, get a couple of threads started, and that'll allow us to slide the fence over this. I've got 6 of these to install. So let me just finish putting these on. Now you'll have 4 of these square-headed bolts across the main portion of the table, and then you'll have 1 each out here in the wings. So all 4 across the front and 1 in each of the wings. Now we're out here to the wings. On page 8 of the manual, it shows you to install these on the inner hole. Loosely install that on the inboard hole in that wing, and then 1 on the other side. Here's the last one going on. And again, make sure to leave plenty of room on these to slide your fence rail on. Now let's prepare our rail. We're going to start off with the shorter piece. It has the little nubs on one end, and we're going to go to the opposite end, and we're going to put on our caps. Open the bag, take up the 2 caps, and there's 4 screws. Let's go ahead and install the end cap. It'll get placed over the end, leaving this area exposed and that rail exposed. 2 simple screws go right into the edge of the extrusion. And you'll see these little holes where the screws are going to go in. I'll start them finger tight. And then just run them in with a screwdriver. You don't need to over torque these, just enough to hold the plastic cap on. Now that we've got the front rail prepared, let's go ahead and slide it onto the saw. There's a T-slot right here, and then there's a large gap. That large gap is going to be toward the saw, and the flat surface is going to be toward the front. You'll see this T-slot will join here with the square-headed bolts. Let's go ahead and slide it from the left-hand side of the saw toward the right-hand side. And you're going to cover 3 bolts, and this will actually line up with the end. We're just going to loosely line it up right with the edge of the table saw. We'll let that hang right there loose. Let's go ahead and grab the long rail and install this on the other side. And we're repeating the process by installing the end cap. Make sure you have it on the right-hand side of this rail. 2 more screws. This will slide on from the right-hand side toward the left, and we're going to make sure that we're careful to align those pins into the holes in the end of the fence. Slide in and go over all 3 of the square-headed bolts. And we'll carefully line up the pins. Those are our alignment pins, and that's where our joint is right here. This is going to overhang on the right-hand side And we're going to be careful to flush up the left-hand side as we bring these two pieces together. So we'll make sure that that's flush. And let's go ahead and tighten down the bolts and get this front rail set. And we've got our 13 wrench again. Make sure that this is flush with the end. I'm going to go ahead and snug it up, just finger tight on a couple of them here. Yep. Now that we've got these snugged finger tight, let's go ahead and put a wrench on them and tighten them up. Just double checking to make sure that the end is flush as I've tightened that last one down. There we go. Now that we've got the front rail installed, we're going to go install the rear rail. If you have the 36-inch version like we're setting up right now, it's going to come in two pieces. If you have the 52-inch version, it's going to be set up as one piece. So we'll set these over here on the saw. And let's grab our fasteners, and these are the cap screws. These use a number 6 Allen wrench. You can use the wrench that came with it. I like to use a long one so I can get my hands on that. Let's bring all the fasteners over here to the table. Now these have the lock washers pre-installed on them. And on the underside we're going to use the same nuts and washers that we used on the front. Let's go ahead and install the short one first on this side, just like we did on the front, and then we're going to install the long one. What you want to make sure is that when you put these two on, that they level off in between each other. So leave the hardware loose as you install it, and then we'll go through, level them off, and tighten them down. Okay, so we've got 3 bolts to install in the rear rail, and we're going to put these right through. I like to preload them, just a couple of them, and fit it to the back of the saw. And I'll grab a nut and a washer, install the washer first. It's a little tighter fit right here. There's just a small clearance between your back of the saw and the cast iron piece right here. So just reach up inside, slide those on. Start them right in. Now I've left that short rail loose, just finger tight, so I can go back and adjust them level when I tighten it down. I'm going to install the long rail. And again, when you install these, you're not going to install it this way, but you're going to install it with the flat portion in the upside here. So put one bolt in, the second bolt, and the last bolt is going to go in right there. Stay in place as I get my nuts and bolts ready. And again, just finger tight until we have everything leveled off. Now that we've got both halves installed, and they're both finger tight, I want to go through and make sure that this joint is level. I like to push down on these, make sure that they're both sitting down on the bolts. Drop a straight edge across the back just to make sure that they're level. And then I'll use the number 6 Allen and a number 13 wrench and snug down the bolts. If this thing lifts up as you're tightening them down, just push it back down, keep it flat. You see it wants to move up a little bit sometimes. Okay, that last one is tight. Just double check to make sure that your parting line is tight and we're good. Your fence is going to have a little bumper that rides on this rail. That's why you want to make sure that that parting line is tight. Now that we've got set, we'll move on to the next step. Now, of course, we're installing the rails on a 36-inch version of this saw. And the 36-inch version is perfect for small shops where you don't have very much space. My first table saw was just this size, a 36-inch table saw. If you're installing the rails on the 52-inch version, it's going to be a one-piece rear rail and a one-piece front rail. And now would be the time that you would install the right side table for your saw. And that's covered on page 9 of the owner's manual. And we'll show that in just a little bit. You'll have a table over here with 2 legs that are supported. But in this case, let's go ahead and move forward with the 36 and we'll come back and show you that accessory kit for the 52-inch.